Ooh. All right, bet. Get excited. What up, y'all? How you feel? It's Merch Life J, motivational, inspirational speaker for parentpreneurs across the globe. I'm finna read y'all chapter 1 of The Essence of Betrayal. I'm live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everything at the same damn time. Get excited. So, it go a little something like this. It all started 2 nights ago down at the community park. Ooh. Let me make sure I'm all right, but I'm good. It all started 2 nights ago down at the community park when a man dressed in all white opened fire at the East Side Lime Street boys. We didn't know who he was or where he came from. All we knew was that we'd never seen him before, and he didn't look like he was from anywhere around here. Pow, pow, shots fired. Sounded like a Desert Eagle, but I wasn't sure. Troy, a woman called from an apartment building above. An apartment window above. Are you okay? As I took a breath to answer her, I felt the stinging sensation in my right leg, and then I heard another shot fired. Ah! I screamed at the top of my lungs. Pow! Another bullet whizzed by as if to shut me up. I hit the ground near the water fountain when I began to hear footsteps. Troy, get up, Santana yelled from behind me. I can't, my leg, I said painfully, but by the time I finished my sentence, we were already limping away. We got past the slide and made it over to the barrier at the end of the park when I saw him. The man dressed in the all-white Dickies with a white rag tied around his face, a Desert Eagle in each hand, firing at the group of Lime Street boys over by the swings. Boom, 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 boom. A tactical shotgun fired from a window above. We approached the building where my apartment was and collapsed to the ground, exhausted. I looked over at the swings and saw 2 Lime Street boys laid out in the gravel, one face down with a blood-soaked green rag in his right hand, the other lying face up, staring straight at the sky with an empty 9mm Glock in his left hand, a green rag tied around his right wrist, and the clip to his gun lay about a foot away. The others had scattered. Pow! The man in white fired at the LSB operating the shotgun. He aimed precisely. The Lime Street boys slouched out the window and fell slowly to his demise. The shotgun went off as it hit the ground beside him. The man in white suddenly turned around and ran up to a van across the street. I can still hear the tires screech as it drove away. Hours later, I came to and found myself in my bedroom. An ace bandage on my leg irritated me. I hadn't noticed it was there until I went to scratch it. Then almost suddenly remembered everything. Everything. The bullet must have gone right through or just grazed me because I felt like I could walk. I limped my way into the living room and was surprised at what I saw. Santana, my friend, Jasmine, my girl, and Taylor, my sister, all sat on the couch in disbelief as I wobbled my way toward them. "What are you doing here?" I shouted. "Well, damn, I thought I'd come see how you was doing. Santana told me what happened. I just couldn't stay at home." "Sorry for Karen," Jasmine said slowly. "She didn't live near me, and I liked it that way. I never wanted her near Lime Street because of my fear of her being hit by a stray bullet." Ironic, isn't it? "I'm sorry, baby. That's not what I meant," I said as I hugged her. "It's dangerous around here. This neighborhood is no place for you." "I know, but I wanted to see you," she said softly, as I was worried. "I just wish I had the burner when it went down," Santana said in a deep tone. "No, dog, you did your part. I'm still kicking, ain't I?" I said. "Yeah, but that's beside the point." He stood up and threw a green rag around his shoulders. "Dipping Ace got popped out there. You know what has to be done." "I got you. We gonna handle this. I got hit too, remember?" "What do you mean y'all gonna handle it? I swear y'all never learn," Jasmine said angrily. "Don't worry, Jazz," I said as I walked to the window. "We gonna be okay." I looked down at the bloody scene below and felt nothing but rage and vengeance come over me. I saw the chalk outlines of the LSB's bodies and the markers the coroners and forensics team had put down according to eyewitness accounts. The park below, surrounded by apartment buildings, was covered with police. The next day, the entire complex was crawling with detectives, taking pictures and questioning people at random. They never got one lead. No one knew anything. However, the description of the man in white was on every news station in town. I constantly thought to myself, if he was lucky, they'd find him before I did. "Santana," Taylor called from the bedroom. "Taylor," he responded in a normal tone. We are going to be late. What are you doing? She said. You the one getting pretty. I've been ready. Yo, Troy, we out. He said as he shook my hand and exited the apartment, Taylor not far behind him. All right, y'all be safe. I said. Where they headed to? Jasmine said as she sat up on the couch. They got a meeting with the OGs about what happened last night, I said reluctantly. Oh, of course, Jasmine snapped. I'll be back, though. I have something to pick up. I said as I turned to hug her. Take me with you, she said. I could see the fear in her eyes. No, I said firmly. But how do I know you'll come back? She said softly while standing, her eyes filled with tears. I spun around on my good leg, grabbed her by the waist, moved her hair out of her face, looked her in the eyes and said, I promise I'll be back. I love you, Jasmine. Then I kissed her passionately before shutting the door. I was gone before she could open her eyes. I heard her begin to cry as I approached the stairs and thought about turning around, but I couldn't. I didn't even want to. 30 minutes later, I parked across the street from the intersection where Lime Street and Crater Ave met. I waited. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw two men with black suitcases walking slowly toward my car. They got in. What's poppin'? The first one said. Peace, Troy. The other mumbled from the back seat. Greetings, gentlemen. Y'all got what I need? I said quickly. Affirmative. The first one said. Uzi's, texts, and 2 M16s. You got that guap? Of course, I said. Wouldn't have come without it. Just one thing, I said as I handed him the bag of money from under my seat. If the Uzis and the texts is in the cases, where y'all got the M16s at? Here's the address. He handed me a slip of paper. You'll have to pick them up. They got out of my car. I drove for a good while before I got there. 7301 East Bar Boulevard. I knocked on the door. I heard what sounded like rusted metal sliding against itself. The door opened. Troy? A man asked as he stepped out in front of me. Yeah, I said. All right, park around back. The garage gonna be open. He said before slamming the door. I waited in the dark garage about 5 minutes before a young man named by the name of Lil knocked on my window and asked, who sent you, Troy? He said with disgust as if he had known me from somewhere. Santana, I said in an equally threatening tone. Pop the trunk, Lil commanded. I did so, of course. The car suddenly got heavier. The back axle sat a little bit lower than before. The trunk slammed. Good to go, Lil said, and then stepped away from the car into the darkness. Don't distract me. All right, he stepped away from the car into the darkness. Step 1 had been completed. I had the tools. Now I just had to figure out who to use them on. I rode in the car for a while trying to figure out if anyone knew where the man in white had come from. No one knew anything. The silence was out of fear for themselves, not out of loyalty to the shooter. I talked to the woman in the window who had been concerned if I was all right the night everything happened. She said that the van that took the man away had been used before to wiretap the phones in her building. Cops? I thought to myself, why would the cops want to kill us? The Lime Street boys and law enforcement had always had bad blood between them, but due to their partnership in the drug trade, a treaty was called a few months back, and they haven't really had any problems ever since. It couldn't have been the pigs, I thought. Nah, not them. But whoever did it wanted us to think it was them. But since I was neither LSB or a cop, why did I get hit? Maybe I was just caught in the crossfire. No, that man knew exactly what he was doing. His aim was precise, and I was nowhere near the Lime Street boys when the shooting even started. There had to be another motive, but what was it? I pondered for what seemed like hours and came up with nothing. When I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment complex, I got a sudden chill like something wasn't right. I greeted every Lime Street boy on the way in to the building. Hey, yo, you seen Santana around? I asked as I shook one's hand. Nah, not lately. I thought he'd be back by now. I said, nah, not lately. I thought he'd be back by now, he said, and I kept walking. That uneasy feeling grew with haste. As I got closer to my building, I stepped into the elevator and sat down the suitcases. The door closed. 5th floor, I thought to myself as it started to move. The doors open. The moment I stepped out of the elevator, I got a sudden chill again, like there was something I should know. I turned down the hallway and heard 2 females speaking. Well, what the hell you gonna do now? One of them said. Me? Don't you mean what are we gonna do now? The other one snapped. I can't believe you dragged me into this mess, the first one yelled. I slowed my footsteps down to a silent creep. As I got closer to the As I got closer, I started to recognize the voices. Dragged you in. This was your idea to begin with, Taylor. I knew her voice anywhere. By now, I realized the argument was coming from my apartment. I put the suitcase down and proceeded to open the door. Click, click, it was locked. As I reached for my keys, I heard what sounded like frantic movement across the apartment. I opened the door. The first thing I laid my eyes on disgusted me beyond vomiting. Santana lay face down in the hallway in a puddle of blood. The back of his head was completely gone. His brain, or pieces of it for that matter, still splattered across the wall, still splattered across the scene, slid slowly down the wall like strawberry oatmeal had been thrown there. He had been shot. I dropped my suitcase immediately and stood back in disbelief. The door slammed behind me. Someone was coming. I could hear footsteps. I went to try and open the suitcase latch so that I could arm myself before anyone arrived. Too late. Pow! A bullet from my 22 millimeter SIG that I kept on top of the fridge pierced my side. Ah! I screamed in anguish, still trying to get the suitcase open. The person behind the trigger was someone I never thought would be shooting me. I looked up at her slowly. I recognized her body before I even saw her face. I knew exactly who she was, but I didn't want to believe it. Jasmine. A white bandana tied around her face. Tears drenched the scarf and were still pouring out of her eyes. Why? That was all I could say as she pointed the gun at me again. Click, click. The old gun jammed as she tried to squeeze the trigger. By now, I had an Uzi in my hand, but it wasn't loaded. I reached for the clip, but it was too far away. I bent to grab it and felt the pain of my wound. My gun was loaded. Without hesitation, I opened fire at the woman I loved and thought I could trust until she tried to kill me. The Uzi rang out, sending countless bullets flying through the hall. She tried to move, but it was too late. By now, the shots had her body pinned to the back wall of the apartment. The tear-soaked rag on her face was no longer white. Now it was the color of the floor I laid on beside Santana's body. I almost forgot Taylor was even there until I heard the noise from the other room. Taylor, I shouted down the hallway as I tried to stand. No answer, just the sound of a zipper. I fell back on the floor, unable to get up. Boom! She fired a shot from the .380 snub-nose revolver I kept in my bedroom. Miss. I pulled back the trigger on the Uzi in my left hand and carelessly let off every round. My own sister, I thought as she stepped out in front of me. Boom, boom, the revolver hit me in the shoulder. I passed out, and that's all I could remember. Thank you, said the detective sitting across the table. That'll be all. Damn! I know that going crazy, man. That was part 1 of The Essence of Betrayal. If you like that book, man, I'm gonna put the link in this. Matter of fact, if you on Instagram, the link is in my bio right now. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or anywhere else, the link is under the video. Part 2 is available right now for $5. It's on the site. Get excited, man. Go cop that. I love y'all. You already know. I'll holler at you later.